what is profitable, right? I own a nonprofit. What does that mean? I don't go to the gym to look good. I don't go to the gym to have muscles. I go there to literally get that mind-body connection. It's going to continue to kill people till we actually invest in prevention work. What makes a good event is you need to give people something to do, right? Like they need an activity.
He opened a cannabis lounge before the playbook existed, using a non-profit private membership strategy to give people a legal place to smoke in Worcester. I'm Jason Reposa. After 25 years in tech and cannabis, I host High Functioning to show what actually works. Today's guest is Kyle Moon, founder of The Summit Lounge. His club predates the CCC's social consumption framework and operates under municipal oversight rather than state licensure. We get into how he built Summit when people said it couldn't be done, whether the lounge model truly works as a business, the uphill grind of earning new members, and what's next for him. We cover scaling the cafe, a bigger space or a move, and how he thinks about competition and community.
I'm trying to do a cool thing with cool people, and how do I keep growing, right? And the numbers are almost just like an intrinsic mark of that, not so much the goal.
This is finding your path without losing your mind, your business, or relapsing. Let's dive in.
I own the Summit Lounge. Well, I'm the clerk, right? So I sit on the board of directors of that. I also own a for-profit LLC where we do like events, event management, marketing stuff, some consulting, background, public/private health consulting, person in long-term recovery, married. I like long walks on the beach, you know? I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting question. You know?
Yeah, so I think about this and I think to myself, a lot of people know you as the guy who runs Summit Lounge, right? And so obviously we'll talk a lot about social consumption on this one, but there's a couple other things that are very interesting in that background, that story that you just presented, which is healthcare, personal recovery.
Yeah.
Like, let's take a walk down that.
Yeah, well, I know. It was, so I feel like I was a young man who was lied to about a lot of things and believed a lot of things that just weren't true about the world, right? And so naturally gravitate to the easiest coping skill, which is drugs and alcohol, right? You know what I mean? You don't really know then, you know what I mean? You don't know how that's going to impact your life at 14, 15 years old, and then you're 22 and you're like, wow, I've been indicted 3 times. I'm looking at Fed time and this isn't working out anymore, So then I ended up, was blessed with the opportunity to go to like a recovery. I went to the Salvation Army for 9 months and graduated, did the whole program, did everything. I got wicked involved in like 12-step community and like the recovery community, right? And that's really where I got like my start in like, I guess, the professional world, right? Because before that I was an electrician, just.
So you're an electrician.
Yeah.
Who goes to like the apprenticeship with electricians.
So when I say electrician, my family is electricians. I was doing electrical work to have a real job because predominantly I sold narcotics.
So when was that like a high school thing? You
Yeah.
like young?
Yeah. All right. So it's weird. Like when we talk about recovery, it's such an in-depth topic, right?
If I trigger anything, I apologize.
No, not at all. There is no. So I didn't.
Boundaries, just say it.
I mean, I spoke in front of like 500 people at the State House, told the recovery story. You know what I mean? It's a common story, right? Like it's a common story. I found a way out. You know what I mean? And people need to know that it's not the end of the world. It's something that happens to a lot of people, and there is a solution, right? And I feel like if I do anything in life, I want to illustrate that like your worst part in your life, like doesn't have to be the end, right? Like you're not the sum of your worst decisions, and you don't have to live like that, and I don't think that's a message that's heard enough. And I have a lot of gripes with that whole industry. That's why I'm in cannabis now, right? But
Industry.
I
got some of these.
yeah, so I think it's a hot button issue, right? Like we can't talk about medicated assisted treatment and how it, in my opinion, doesn't have the effect that a lot of people think it does. I don't think I worked for the Department of Public Health and the Bureau of Substance Abuse Services and in the Office of Youth and Young Adults, right? And that's like where I focus the majority of my time because I always felt like if we build strong children, then we don't have to mend broken adults.
So you were seeing these young ideas come through.
Yeah, and then at that level, right, when you get past like the clinician, like directly interacting with the client, right, like the person in or seeking recovery, right, like you're at another level in the scheme of nonprofit government intersection, right, with for-profit corporations, and you start looking at the recovery industry, right, and that's what it is. It is an industry, just like anything, right? Like we're talking insurance dollars, we're talking insurance reimbursement, patients, clients, bed costs, clinicians, right, and it is an industry, right, and looking at that whole portion of my life, right, and I try to think about it like that, where it's like being involved in that, like, didn't have I was 24 when I started it, like, advocating, right? Like, and that's even a loaded word. What does that even mean? Like, yeah, I'm going to the state house as a 24-year-old person with 3 years sober, telling everyone how to build these programs. Like, I don't know if that's the best thing, right? But that was the attitude, you know? So yeah, so whatever. So I look back on that time and I just see that I was involved in a lot of things idealistically that I wanted and I supported. But then when you actually hit the practical level of like dollars allocated and ROI on those dollars, and when we're talking about substance use, that's in or long-term recovery, right? And the numbers just don't match up. You know what I mean?
Was it but it getting back to the recovery side or getting back to the substance abuse side, was it a story of all the electricians are doing it kind of thing? I know it's a family-run business.
Yeah, yeah,
Is it like
exactly.
there are a lot there are a lot of
It started
electricians
before that.
trained?
It started before that, right? And this is the thing with recovery. It's just like mental health. Like, unless you suffer from depression, can you ever really understand what it's like to be truly chronically depressed? Like,
Right.
no, you have no idea. It's in their head, right? And we can't, oh, your arm's broken. We can't look at it and be like, yeah, that's broken, right? So it's like, so for me, it manifested, I mean, way earlier than that, before I even started using, right? Like I'm having a conversation with you and I'm thinking in my head about what I'm going to say. How am I going to get this person to like me? How am I going to manipulate all the pieces in my life to produce the outcome I want, right? And it's really that, for me, that's more of the substance use disorder, right? And being in that industry and looking at, predominantly working with youth and young adults, right? Like there's clear cut curriculum, social emotional learning that we can implement in schools that teaches children how not only to identify their emotions, but how to develop healthy coping skills, right? Because that's a big thing, right? We don't teach kids, when are you mad? How are you, what does it mean to be sad for you, right? And then what do you do when you're feeling these negative emotions?
What was your role in that during that time with the DPH?
Yeah. So I
What would that be considered? Kind of
Yeah.
like a
So all right. So I was technically a consultant. I was hired under a SAMHSA grant to create community advisory boards.
and that's because you had already been
Yeah.
in recovery and you've been 3 years sober at that.
So yeah, so I was probably 3 or 4 years sober at that time. I started, one of my friends ended up passing away, and I was like, "This is crazy. We got to do something." I'm young. I'm idealistic. I'm like, "We're going to the
All those
state house."
ideas.
Yeah, we're going to the state house, and it was great. Yeah, I met a lot of really good people. I think there is, we can't just let these people pass. We can't just let them die. You know what I mean? So we have to do something, right? And all my gripes about it are more just personal, right? But
What year was this?
2000, this was probably 2000, so I got sober 2013, probably 2015, right before we started the lounge. So probably like 2015,
Do
2000.
you think this has gotten worse?
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's still
I
it's
mean,
just still
it's where we can't touch it. It's going to continue to kill people till we actually invest in prevention work. And that's the problem, right? Like we're looking at it from a place of the end problem and trying to create solutions around that, not looking at the symptoms of the problem, right? Which is, we don't know how to identify or develop healthy coping skills, because it's just not what we
and that's what you say when you said you alluded to a solution before. That's your solution.
Yeah, well,
is-
100%. If you can identify when I'm feeling angry, mad, sad, right? Instead of channeling that into a destructive behavior, right? Overeating, drugs and alcohol, any of them, right? You can turn that in. Hey, I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna pray, right? Like there's lots of things that are healthy coping skills that we've identified that
Right.
work to calm the mind, intersect it with the body, and really like put your mental and your physical place in the same alignment.
So it's almost like when you have that moment where you have to cope with some difficult time,
Yeah, what do you
you
do?
could go one of these paths.
And the easier one is always sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know what I
And it
mean?
also because it just also maybe depends on environmental factors, what's next to you.
Well, that was the other
If you have a parent that's going to the gym, maybe it's like, hey, I want to go to the gym. Or if you're on the streets or whatever, then it becomes that's the natural
100%,
environment.
100%. And in those type of situations, like working with the youth and young adults, so back to like what I actually did. I was charged with setting up a community when I actually started to like get into this and like, all right, this is what I'm doing.
Did you propose this, or did they?
No, so I started showing up at all these advocacy meetings. I got really close with one of the people in the Office of Youth and Young Adults. She was like, "Hey, we're going to get the SAMHSA grant where we set up community advisory boards. We invite all these young people to advise us on our programs and policies. We need someone there who can talk to the young people."
Yeah.
At this point, 24, clean cut, young man, I'm presentable, right? I speak the language of these people that we're trying to engage. She was
They're
like,
still in your 20s.
yeah, she'd be like, she's like, yeah, you're great for it.
Yeah.
She's like, you're great for it. So I did that for maybe, I want to say like a year, 6 months. And then, yeah, it was cool. We set up 4 or 5 community advisory boards. I invited all the young adults inner seeking recoveries. I got really involved with like the recovery high schools. Yeah, and it's
High school is dedicated to recovery.
oh yeah. Oh, there was back then. I know that. I don't know where they are in the state now, honestly, but
Interesting.
yeah,
So it's people who are like
well, people who are
teenagers, maybe they're in high school.
and they have
They have
problems.
problems.
They have serious mental health issues, and our
There's
current
special schools.
yeah. Well, I mean, the normal schools just can't handle that. When you're looking at someone like myself in high school, I was 17. I got charged with 9 counts of larceny of a firearm, 9 counts of possession of a firearm. Like, I can't be at a regular school. That's just not. I wouldn't. I looked.
Like a senior or junior.
I was probably a junior,
Yeah.
junior. Yeah, and it's like you can't. You reach a point in substance use disorder where like we as a civilized society have to say like, hey, like you can't live like this, right? And that's the end result of that. But I always
Was that a group mentality in high school where you're like, hey, all my friends are doing it, so I'm just gonna go on this
well, I think
together?
it stems from a lot of stuff, man. Like I have dyslexia. You know what I mean? I always feel less than. The best thing I ever heard was I heard it said like this at a 12-step meeting where I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. I'm a little bit better than you, but I'm just never good enough. You know what I mean? And when you have that in your head, you're just reaching out whatever because you just want to be loved, right? And that's not saying my parents, didn't love me. Like my dad played football in the backyard. They're both regular, amazing people, like my wife just bought a house right next to him. You know what I mean? So it's like, so it's just, yeah, and we don't teach kids. We just don't how to handle these emotions, right? We teach them science, we teach them math, we teach them history, but is there a
Curriculum. Yeah, the academics.
and it all comes back to prevention work. But
Yeah.
when you look at it in the context of substance use disorder, that the dollar ROI spent on a recovery bed in a program versus the dollar spent on prevention work, you can't quantify the two out, right? Because if we're spending recovery dollars on it, we don't know how many of these kids are going to become addict alcoholics. We don't, the metrics just aren't there to justify the spend.
You don't see the actual ROI right away either.
You say it's going to take 10, 15 years. And while we're doing that, we also can't afford to pay for all the beds we've been paying for. So now we have to appreciate on the other side as we shift these resources, because there's not unlimited resources, right?
Because the money goes where the money goes.
Yeah.
It's going to be in there.
Yeah, if we get $10, 5 of it goes over here, 4 of it goes over here. If we move 5 over here, now we're only getting 4 over here, and so it's like you have to look at it more from like an educational standpoint, I think, and I think that will solve a lot of the problems in society.
I was gonna say, so that it like when it comes to solution is coping mechanisms, getting them young and
Oh, 100%, and developing those coping.
so if there's one thing you were to change right now,
100%, there's clear-cut curriculum that we could put in every single school that helps teachers implement social emotional skills in students with already established curriculum. Like, and an example that I always use is like, if you're talking about Napoleon, you're like, well, what do you think it felt like to get exiled, right? Like, well, how would you feel if that happened to you? What would you do if that happened to you, right? Like, and trying to get the student to identify their internal feelings with a thing that is outside of them and getting them to process how they'd go through that situation before they even ever go through that. So no one's going to have to be exiled, right? But
Yeah.
how do you handle a fight? How do you handle rejection, right? And you're teaching those skills embedded in the student's mind at an early enough age where then they can start to utilize them throughout their life, and then they build a healthy
knowing that though, are you a pretty like solid 100% practitioner of those coping skills?
Oh God, no. God, no.
Perfection is always really
Yeah, no, dude,
fun.
no. Oh my God, no. I go to the gym 3 days a week, Do I pray every day? No. Do I meditate every day? No. Do I journal every day? No.
But when something happens, because you obviously go through a lot of turmoil and social consumption,
It's
the
constant.
the roller coaster ride that you've been on,
Oh my God.
how do you cope? Like, what is your relationship? Is it
find-
gym? Is
It's
it
the gym. It's the gym. Honestly, since I got sober, I've worked out consistently all the time, right? Obviously, I don't, and I tell everyone this, I don't go to the gym to look good. I don't
Right.
go to the gym to have muscles. I go there to literally get that mind-body connection, right? Because when you're in the gym, you're doing an exercise and you're thinking about how is each individual muscle moving, right? And you're connecting your mind to your body, which I think is important for me. You know what I mean? Because I get into the clouds.
right? Because you just start drifting,
Yeah,
and your
100%.
brain keeps on going.
And keeps on going.
So, like on the coping side, nobody's ever perfect, of course. The gym is one of my outlets as well. Every time if I'm having stress, I will go 5 days a week because I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to get there in the morning because if I don't get there in the morning, something's off that day.
Well, it sets the tone for the whole day, right? You get the flood of endorphins. I even tell everyone you don't even have to just do 10 or 15 push-ups every morning. Try, do a couple squats
Yeah.
because you get the blood flowing. You get that once again. You're thinking, you're moving.
Right.
When you start your day with that type of positive energy and that positive outlook, like no matter what happens, you're gonna be like, I sweat and bled at the gym. I can get through this. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm reflecting when you're telling me these things, I'm reflecting a little bit back on my history as well as a person and growing up because I feel like I don't have great, I mean, I have a coping mechanism such as the gym, but like I I don't know, I've always had that block mentally of being like everything's external to me. Yeah, and I don't imagine like being exiled. Like I guess I could try to figure that out, but I never had that curriculum,
That's the thing.
put into that classroom setting so early on.
Well, that's the thing, and I think our generation, our parents' generation, you know what I mean? We weren't this conversation like, how does your emotions impact your life? Like that's just not
That wasn't a thing.
that wasn't a thing.
My wife and my whole family is just like, you're the most non-emotional person. I'm like, I don't know what to do. What's
My dad, I'm like, I don't know if he'll cry.
Yeah, exactly,
He's that
yeah.
tough electrician. You know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah, no, like I think there's a time and a place for everything, right? Where we have to be stoic in some type of situations. We have to, we have to handle our emotions as someone of this society, right? We have to be there for the people around us, and that means being a strong, confident person, right? But on the flip side, like internally, what are you thinking about yourself? How are you viewing yourself? How are you interacting with people? Are you replaying these situations, thinking like, oh, should I said this? Should I said that? And when you develop the healthy coping skills, you're able to just let it sit.
Yeah. Do you have
I
like,
find, at least for me.
do you, and like reflecting on yourself again, do you have like bad habits that you're
God, I vape all the time. I vape. I'll eat halal at freaking 1 in the morning. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, but you're not striving for perfection. You just want it to be an idea, right? Where it's like, if
I
I
think that's what I'm trying to get across to the audience is that like there's no such, I mean, because you're always in recovery, as what I've been told, right?
yeah, always 100%, right? 100%, yeah.
And you're running a business and a bunch of other kind of activities alongside of it, and you're not perfect, and nobody's perfect.
No, God, no, yeah,
So I also noticed you had two phones.
I do.
Also,
Yes.
why do you have two phones?
Like I said, it's cheaper. I have no idea how that worked out, but so I had one phone with the 3 SIM cards.
But why do you have three SIM cards?
So
That's the real question.
Yeah.
Why do you need? I'll say, oh, I know one other person,
Yeah.
banker, who has two different,
okay.
because he's like clients and then my personal.
Yes. So when we first started the lounge, I had them all at one, right? And when we first started, it was, very interesting time, right? Cannabis had just been legal. It's quasi black market. It's quasi legal market, right? And so we got a club phone, and then I had my personal phone, right? And then what happened was the club phone, I'd get all these random calls from random people, just like I'm sure good vibes as a business line, right? So that's one cell phone, right? Then my like work line, right, was like, all right, now I'm getting hit up by all these random dispensaries, all these people I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, do I really want them having like my lifelong personal phone number, right? Looking back on it now, being here 9 years later, I spent a lot of money on phone numbers that I just didn't need. You know what I mean?
So are you consolidating right now then?
I am. I think I'm gonna get rid of the club phone, move that over to my work cell phone, and then just keep the work phone and the personal phone, right? And the club phone was never meant to be a cell phone. During COVID, because we closed, I wanted to still people to still like be like, no, we're still open, but right now we're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Because if you weren't there, no one would be there to pick it up.
no one would be there to pick it up. So we moved that over to the cell phone at that time. And then, yeah, now
So take me through this then. So you are you're frustrated with the DPH days because you're just like where the money doesn't like the money's going.
we just weren't having
places
any
that
impact.
the impact wasn't there. Okay, that's why. That's what I would.
That's what I would say.
So the impact wasn't there. There's clear solutions, and there's no interest in making those solutions happen.
Yeah.
So you're like, you're not having the impact. I'm out.
Yes.
Then you just like
So
sit down and say like, what do I do next?
yeah. So what ended up happening was, so whenever you're out of work and you're just like, what do I do with my life? You go back to school, right? So I started going back to college. Uh, yeah, I ended up getting in a motorcycle accident. That's what really, so I was living in Boston. I was working at DPH. I was a professional recovery coach. I was doing all this stuff. I drove a street bike. I was super cool, right? And then I got in a motorcycle accident. Actually broke both my arms. I ripped off my thumb and I broke my shoulder. This giant acid. Yeah, crazy. So yeah, the tattoo up here is all like, it's funny.
Oh, you guys, you had the tattoo.
Dude, oh yeah. So they didn't like match up the two pieces of the skin, dude. It's so funny. And I didn't realize till like weeks after when I like got out of the hospital and like looked at it and I was like, like, what is this? But yeah, so I got in an accident and then I went back to school trying to just figure out what I really want to do, right? That was like a 6-month recovery. And then my brother was actually in the cannabis industry. They had gotten a license in Pennsylvania for cultivation.
Medical market.
Yeah.
So wait a second. After that accident, how did you handle the pain management?
I didn't. So yeah. So well, me and my doctor worked out, and obviously I was still going to 12-step all the time, right? You got to stay connected, right? And so I was doing that. I was in the program, right? And what I came up with the doctors was, because they were like, you can't not take pain medication when you have this type of injury. Like your body is going to be focused more on the pain than actually healing. You need to take pain medication, right? And obviously that's a problem, right? So I agree with them. There was no like I wasn't taking, like the only thing I was willing to take home with me was non-narcotics, right? So you're talking like tramadol, stuff like that, right? That's supposedly non-narcotic, right? But obviously it's not about, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so I did that when I left the hospital. And then when I was in the hospital, we all agreed like I can have whatever I need to manage the pain when I'm in the hospital. And then when I get out, I'll do non-narcotics.
Were you okay? Did you
Yeah, no,
went out?
I didn't struggle with it at all. What I found for me, I didn't really want to get sober either. That's a weird thing. I don't.
You liked it?
Yeah, no, the delusions. The delusions had grown so great that I really didn't think there was a problem with the way I was living, right? And looking back, that's just absolute insanity, right? But you can't
You
see
tell
that.
yourself,
Tells me God, yeah, no, I have 3 federal indictments and I'm in the Salvation Army, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like they got the problem,
You said Salvation Army. That actually threw me for a loop too, because I think Salvation Army as a person when you like you go thrift shopping.
Yeah, no. So
They actually have like a program.
they are completely free, completely like funded by the Salvation Army. I mean, you can look at it 2 ways, right? They're either helping people for really cheap labor or, they're running their business on slave labor, because so you don't get paid. Oh yeah. So you work there for 9 months. They restructure everything. I mean, you wake up at 6 a.m., you go to the shop. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Yep.
Dorms or whatever.
Yeah. They have, the one I went to was in Springfield. You wake up, you go to Bible study, then you go to work, then you go to lunch, then you go back to work, then you go get out of work, you go to programs, then you go to church.
Working at like the Salvation Army.
Yeah, right next door. Where they pick up all the donations. You're literally in the warehouse sorting donations. You know what I mean? And then you graduate, you end up working through the program. And I was on the trucks for a while. So you call for like a donation, I'd show up at your house, we'd lift the couch out.
This seems like a fantastic program.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Well, you're developing the healthy coping skills over time, right? Like you're reintegrating into what we have set as a defined societal, right? Like you're getting up every morning, you're working, you're focusing on, your recovery, you're focusing on work, you're eating healthy, right? You're getting 3 meals a day, and then you do that long enough. And this is where we get into the actual solution, right? If we're talking about end stages, is long-term residential programming, right? Where you stay somewhere in a confined environment, but have enough freedom to explore the ideas of what recovery can look like, right? And you do that long enough where it resets your internal pathways. So then you can actually just, and then I got out. I already was waking up at 6 o'clock because I had been doing it for 9 months. So now what am I going to do at 6 o'clock? I don't have a job yet. I'm going to go to the gym. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then you just start building on those habits over time. And then you look back 12 years later and you're like, that was insane.
Yeah.
You know, like, holy shit.
How it's because those things, it's funny because small things compound.
Oh, 100%.
Small little acts every day.
Tom and Cows. Yeah. Have you ever read that book?
I have it. I'm a prolific purchaser of books.
Okay. All right.
Not reading of the books. I purchase them. And then I'm like, I'm going to get to that someday. And never do. Oh, it's a good beach day. I'll bring a book. I never open the book.
Never open the book. It's so funny. I get through like the first like 4 or 5 chapters. Audiobooks I do a lot. I find reading is really hard for me, reading and writing. So the audiobooks, I'll put it on in the car and
Oh, it's fantastic. And that's why I even started a podcast because I listen to podcasts nonstop. Like the one thing, and my kids hate it. I'm in the car and I'm like, honey, she has soccer like 3 days a week at a club team. And so we have to drive 40 minutes to Taunton every day. That is one way. And I pop in a podcast because she'll be like on TikTok on her phone. I'm like, I'm just listening to a podcast.
Like, Oh,
or sometimes
so
I'll take a trip to like New York City or something like that. Podcast the entire time.
That's a lot. How old is he?
I have a 15, a 13, and an 8. Soon to be 16, 14, and 9. They're all winter babies, so it's all coming up right now. Three birthdays in a row. 2 Decembers and a January.
Those are like real people too. Like this.
Oh, 100%. No, they're very much their own person at this point. Especially my 13-year-old daughter, who is she knows exactly what she wants, even though we advise maybe against her sometimes. You're like, I wouldn't do that. She's very strong-willed to 13.
I love that. It's so interesting to see, right? And like my brother has a niece and my niece and my nephew, right? And my niece just turned 3, and like watching her go from talking to like having abstract thought, right, was like the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Because now she's like, not only like before she could just talk to you, right? Like, and she talk about random stuff. Now she's like recalling stuff from like, oh, what'd you do today? Oh, this and that. How did you feel?
Yeah, memories aren't very long right now because they're so young. So everything sticks with them. My son would recall stuff that happened when he was like 3 or 4 years old. When was like 9 or 10, and I'm like, how did you remember that? I gotta remember anything like that because they've lived for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So back to you leave DPH.
I leave DPH. My brother has this weird weed thing going on in Pennsylvania. He goes to a conference in Colorado, goes to a private cannabis club out there, came back, pitched the idea to me and my family at dinner, and I was kind of the only one that was just going to school, kind of what do I want to do next?
Yeah.
And everyone was like, do you want to try to do this? And I was like, I don't think it's legal. Like none of us, we were like, someone would have done it. You know what I mean? Someone would have done this. And we went to my uncle who owns a law firm in Boston. And he was like, there's no way that's legal. Like, that's not legal. Like, you can't do that.
How did your parents or your family in general feel about cannabis after they knew you had substance abuse?
Yeah, I think,
was that an awkward conversation at the kitchen table then?
No. I look at it like I suffer from a mental health condition, right? And if I was allergic to strawberries are amazing. I'm not going to get mad at you for eating strawberries.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm not going to think about eating strawberries because I know I'm allergic.
But do you consume cannabis?
No. I have hemp, right? So I have tried hemp. I get it Strawberry Hill Farms, like they're hemp they're amazing people. Yeah. So it's like yeah. I mean, I've tried the hemp. I find I don't need it. I find I am a very social person. I can talk to anyone. I don't suffer from depression, anxiety. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, do I get situationally depressed? Do I get situational anxiety? Am I sweating a little bit right now? Yes, but that's so that's a good, right. But yeah, no, I just don't need it. So I look at it like that. If I got cancer tomorrow, yeah, I'd talk with my doctor about like, should I use cannabis? But yeah, no.
If you're into cannabis, entrepreneurship, or just like hearing from people who actually build things, check out High Functioning. It's real talk with founders, operators, and big thinkers. No fluff, just game. New episodes drop every Friday, and you can subscribe and listen at highfunctioning.show. All right, let's get back to the show. So around the kitchen table, that it wasn't an awkward conversation.
No.
And then, so your brother is now in the industry at this point.
Yeah.
And who presented the idea originally to do a lounge?
Yeah. So I went from, and it's interesting. So he brought up the idea because he went to one in Colorado, right? And he came back and was and it's a family business, right? Like we all sit on the board of directors, you know what I mean? So it's a family business. Right now, I'm the only one involved in it because they've all, it's been 9 years. We thought this was gonna happen like that.
We're gonna get to that in a second.
Yeah, I know. I don't want.
Because when you say 9 years, that seems just so fantastical to me. Because it's like you started, I guess, in the medical days, or is that
No. So all right. So we started the process like end of 2016, beginning of 2017. So I guess
okay?
it's
So it
not
was
9 years. It's
the regulated market hadn't really launched
Oh
yet.
yeah,
but
no,
it was
no.
legal.
Yes, I'll
Got
do
it.
percent.
Okay, so that was 2016.
Yeah, so we
legal.
definitely jumped the gun, right? Like we
But you were trying to get ahead of it because you
Yeah,
said,
well,
like,
this was the
nobody's ever done it before.
yeah, no one's ever done
Yeah.
it before, and we were like looking at it like this. I like when my uncle came back 2 weeks later and was like, "It's not illegal, but it might not be legal," and he was like, "I don't really know," and I was just flat out like, "All right, if I go to jail for this, are you gonna take that case? Like, do you think we could win?"
Right.
And he was like, "Yeah, I'd do that. I'd fight the state on that," and I'm like, "All right, then let's do it," and then we started looking for a building. And yeah, so this was 2016 it went legal. So this is like the beginning 2017 and 2016. They're talking about setting up the CCC. There's obviously a lot of like original market players, right? That I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm just not part of it, right? Like, yeah, I mean, I sold a lot of weed back in high school. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I did all that. I have the Corey, you know what I mean? Like, I have the street cred, right? But
You check your core.
yeah, but I just wasn't, you know what I mean? I just wasn't involved in any of that. And it just seemed like a really cool opportunity. It seemed like a really cool idea. Back then I was really involved in 12 steps. So they have like recovery clubhouses where it's kind of a similar idea, right? And I really, and the same thing with I really believe in the idea that when people come together and we work through like these difficult problems, right, i.e. legalization, like we can come to a consensus that works for the majority of people, right? And so looking at that whole dynamic at that point in time, I'm coming off the heels of DPH. I'm kind of like, fuck the government. Right. And then I'm like, all right, we got this cool opportunity. Maybe we can bring some of these traditional, and this is what I did for DPH. I went into recovery communities, gained their trust, developed a consensus, and then we brought it to DPH, and then we allocated funding based on the needs, right?
Is that why you chose that location? Is that still the original location?
Yeah, 100%. We've been there since day one. Two reasons we chose that location. I knew a lot of people in the city because I did a lot of prevention work in Worcester.
Where are you?
From Worcester.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, my parents grew up there. My grandparents grew up there. We live right in Northbridge. So that we picked that spot because it's central to Massachusetts and New England, right? It's one of the fastest growing cities in New England. It's the second largest one, right? Like Worcester has a lot of upside, and I'm from there, right? And when we looked at it, we were like, all right, so this is going to be a statewide industry. How's Boston going to talk to Springfield or Pittsfield? You know what I mean? They're not going to want to drive, you know what I mean? So we tried to pick a centralized hub, which is Worcester. And then you look at the best area in Worcester. We knew the Canal District was already on fire and it was only going to get better. So we tried to find a person to work with down there. We ended up finding, and nowhere else would take us. Honestly, like
That's where I was going to get to next. Like, because I know from the license industry how hard it was to go and find a location
Mhm.
because by then there was the green tax.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was like doubling and tripling the price. Once they heard we were in cannabis, they were like, double the price.
Oh yeah, they were flat out like, "This is illegal. Like, you can't do this." And I'm like, "No, I have a lawyer that says I can." Right?
So is that how you were able to get this building? Still, like, Lane Rushton was just like, cool.
She had a person that kind of screwed her, and she was like, "You're gonna give me 6 months up front. You can do whatever you want in the building." And I was like, "All right, sounds good to
So
me."
your family doesn't own the building.
No,
It's still these.
no, yeah, we have an amazing landlord. Yeah. No, it's still leased.
So early days though, when you start like, and of course, I get this is where my skin, like the dimples on my skin, I'm like, all right, you buy like a bar and you buy all the furniture and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah. No, and then you get to the day you open and there's like Channel 7 outside with a boom and your lawyer's there and we're all just like, are the Fed's gonna kick in the door right now? Like, what's gonna happen? Like,
Door and you're like, what do you?
yeah, and we got our first member, and yeah, I mean the city, I can't. So we're not a cannabis business, right? So
Right.
we don't interact with the CCC,
Right.
we don't interact with the state. We deal with the municipality of Worcester, right? I deal with the food department, inspectional services,
Right.
occasionally like city manager, their legal team, right? Like you talk with the chief of police, the fire department, right? And back then, like it's like these people, the government, at least to me, right? And I only have my perception, right? They were very accessible, right? Like I when we first opened and it came out in the news, I sent an email to all the city councilors, to the mayor, the city manager, right? And the mayor literally emailed me back, was like, "Oh yeah, come into the office, Kyle. Like, would love to see you." And then I go into the mayor's office and we sit down and have a 20-minute conversation about weed and about the lounge and what I'm trying to do. And if he had any, it was more of a collaborative environment because I don't feel like the industry was established yet. So there wasn't all this I don't want to call it self-interest. I want to call it interest, right? Like there was,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
of course. Well, I think Worcester is also in the spirit of trying to grow the industry, not cannabis industry, but just any industry.
We want business, we want young people, and we want to provide you good jobs and good housing. And that was the attitude back then. And I think when they saw the cannabis industry coming, they were like, all right, this is going to be huge, right? And I don't think it's not they never really like from behind the scenes view, like it was a very collaborative environment. Like, how can we figure this out, right? Like they brought up a lot of concerns around security.
Of course.
The bong cleaning was like one of the sticklers.
Bong cleaning?
Bong cleaning. Cause I was renting, I told them, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna rent out like different glassware and bongs and stuff. And they're like, well, what if it has resin in it? Like, aren't you selling the resin then? And I'm like, well, no, because I'm gonna clean it. And they're like, well, how are you gonna clean it? And then I'd be like, well, how should I clean it? And they're like, well, we don't know how to clean it. And then you get into that dialogue of like, all right, well, I think I'm gonna use Epsom salt and alcohol, right? Like I think maybe I'll get like an ultrasonic, you know what I mean? Like and you're talking with the official who's regulating you about the problem because nothing had really been said.
There's no education on that, so nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
And I feel like that's still somewhat the philosophy in a lot of these towns and cities. It's just like a lot of these people, they're more educated than they were definitely 100 years ago, but like they still don't really understand what they're got into. Well, that's why all these additional regulations get thrown on. I mean, if I just look around in my surrounding area, Milford had Sierra Naturals cultivation and Pro Verde Labs, and then they like moratorium, no more. All of a sudden, and then I went to Bellingham because I was looking for space around here.
Yeah.
I went to Bellingham, and Bellingham was like, "You can cultivate, but you can't manufacture." And I'm like, "But cultivation makes all the stink." They're like, "We don't care. That's what the town wanted." And I'm like, "Okay." So you go to and everybody has a different perspective, and nobody's really educated on it, and we're just like dumbfounded, like. Why make this so hard? On businesses, you want to employ people in your town. You want like us to pay tax dollars or whatever. So, but early on, when you were first started, what? Yeah, there was nothing. So when you launched, though, and was that 2017?
That was so February 9th, 2018.
So 2018. So now, the CCC has been formed.
The CCC has been formed, right? Worcester reached out to the CCC to ask guidance. They never got back to Worcester. You know what I mean? Where I'm seeking guidance from the CCC, like, is this allowed? Like, I'm doing it. Like, it's already done at this point, right? Like, we're open. Like, now it's...
And you've given all the warnings.
Yeah, like,
hey, we're here.
We had a meeting in 2016 with, it was a bunch of, like, chiefs of departments to, like, ask all these questions before, like, it's like this thing that they do with the inspectional services where, like, if you have a business idea and you have questions, you can, you know what I mean? So, yeah, we did all our due diligence and, long story short, no one at the end of it all, no one was like yes or no, and we just did it, and then it became now you have to shut me down, you know,
because now it's allowed by default because it's been established as
so it was always allowed, right? But the way conceptually, I think. You look at regulations, right? They always build on each other, right? But when you don't see the scope of all the regulations and how they impact each other, right? So where I'm looking at the 2014 Smoke-Free Work Environment Law as well as the Nonprofit Private Membership Association regulations, right? And then the cannabis laws overlap those, but they don't even realize they overlap because the cannabis laws are 600 pages long, and I don't have shit on top of shit.
Think about those. I don't even think of those things. Well, so when you first launched, though, like. Taking just one step back, because I do want to go into the implementation side some things. But like when I think about when you launched, so like I said, you were filling the place and you were like, the news boom was outside.
Yeah.
Did you think to yourself, man, we made it? Like,
no.
When nobody came knocking out and the feds didn't bust in the door.
It was back then, it was me constantly defend. And this is what I'll say, which is crazy to see like where we're at in society today and where we're at then, right? And to have that insider perspective at such a limited scale, right? Where I was having conversations with the city manager's office, right? And at the same time, I'm reading articles in the paper that were like pitting us against each other, right? And you're in the news, I'm constantly having to defend, how is this legal? How is this legal? Like, this isn't allowed. How is this legal? Right. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, no, this is legal. This is how it's legal. This is the justification. Like, we're working with the municipality.
Would always try to like
Always
beat
try
each
to
other.
pit us against each other. And I was always like, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, it got to a point where we just stopped talking to everyone. And then yeah. And we both, like, I'm talking on the phone with the city manager's office. And I'm like, I'm gonna stop talking to the press. Will you stop talking to the press? I'll stop talking to the press.
Right.
And then it just all went away. And then we just operated and
But was it like from that an early kind of press hit in the very beginning,
yeah.
you got your first member?
Yeah, I think
Was
there's a
it
lot of
was it
fear.
like
I'll be honest with you, it built slowly. It built slowly. It really, we had
because of fear?
yeah,
Or
yeah, I
you
think
wanna-
I,
because they think there could be like a raid or something.
well, yeah, there's nowhere legally to buy it. So
Right.
where are these people getting it? You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
that's it. Are you a medical patient? Like, yeah, okay. The cops back then, no one knew what was happening. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. So I mean, it was touch and go for a little bit, and it was it was an overall interesting experience. Yeah, I don't think it could have went any different. Do I wish it went different? Maybe, but no. You know what I mean?
What would you have done? Would you have done something different? Would you have started it?
I would have got a bigger space. I would have got a bigger
Oh,
space.
it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I would have got a bigger space. Like,
Is it just that one floor?
yeah, yeah, it is. And that we didn't know if we were gonna stay open or not. So I was like, I'm literally renting the space thinking like, all right, if I put, X amount of dollars, I sign a 1-year lease and they shut me down next month, can I afford to carry this lease? Right. That's how I was thinking going into this, right? And I didn't know anything about commercial real estate. I just took a real estate class on the internet. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm negotiating these commercial leases, which is a crazy experience,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, so I wish we had got a bigger space, right? Because I can see where it has gone and where I could have where I could have generated more revenue faster and quicker, right? And it's in the space.
Would you consider moving?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. We've considered it. We're considered it. I think
And now it's fully legal, and now there's dispensaries on every corner in Easter. So like, if you were to get a different space, I feel like they'd be more permissible. The landlord might be more open to it at this point.
and I completely agree with that. I've had landlords approach us about moving into their building, right? And I feel like I'm overcautious and over practical, right? But like I don't know how, and I'm still wrapping my head around. This is my first business ever, right? Like I was 26 when I started this. I had no idea about life or anything, right? And so like looking at it practically now, where I'm like, all right, how do I scale what I already have? And I'm just like, I've run the numbers. We've looked at a million different buildings, and I'm just like, I don't think you can scale this type of environment without adding a significant revenue generation source, right? I.e. alcohol or cannabis, right?
Right, exactly.
And then you look at both of those models, right? And you're like, all right, alcohol, I morally don't really want to be involved in, and I don't really want to deal with drunk people, just period. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't like it, right? And in cannabis, like, the regulatory oversight and burden, like, just provides an operating environment where I think you're set up to lose in the long run. And I don't think I don't see the state properly addressing that. I don't see the operators properly addressing that. I don't see anyone properly addressing the structural issues with the cannabis regulations. We're just always talking about the next hot thing: social consumption, delivery.
Yeah, there's always the new thing to talk about, right?
Did two social equity, so shot. Like, yeah, just
So-
so direct over
100%.
these places.
I think in a lot of ways, it's it's almost like a year and a half ago, whatever it was, where hemp drinks started hitting liquor stores around here, because everybody's so it's cannabis, it's hemp, and all these other things. It's the same plant, to be fair.
It's literally
But
the same
like,
thing, yeah.
but I also feel that there's always that inherent, like, I spent millions of dollars to build this to facility or
Employ
whatever,
people
and all these things.
like
And then, so if you get in for free, screw you. Like, I'm not letting you in, right? So what I think, why would any operator who's currently launched right now and operational ever want to reduce the amount of work it takes to get into the industry?
Never. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Well, where's you?
I'd rather have the bar really, really high, so less people come in because I want more of the pie.
100%. And
That's just me thinking out loud.
no, and that is 100% how our society operates, right? And whether and that's why you have to start with less regulation. And you look at Maine, right, where it's like they started with this med market where it's $1,800 and anyone can have a license, and they blow out the price of weed. And yeah, is that great for the operator? No, but does that allow the small family farm to produce a couple 20 pounds, 30 pounds a year on an outdoor grow and make an extra 20 grand? Yes. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then they come in with the legal market, right? The rec market, where now the licenses cost a bunch of money and it's super regulated and it's this and it's that, right? And now there's this distinction between those two different types of markets and those two types of consumers, those two types of operators, right? And in Massachusetts, I don't think I feel like we should have, if it, there's structural issues with the regulations in Massachusetts that provide even the big players, and we see that with True Leaf and a lot of the MSOs leaving. So it's like we can't make the argument that the people with the money are able to circumvent the regulatory process to their benefit, right? Because if they could, then they'd be here making millions of dollars. It would all
have the license. There would be a license cap at this point.
There'd be a license cap.
True Leaf would have 400 stores in Massachusetts.
Which to me, honestly, I like to be a true capitalist, where I'm like, I'd rather have True Leaf have 100 million stores and there be no regulations. You know what I mean? But that's just
so if we're talking about you entering potentially cannabis, and you're basically saying not a chance.
I'm not saying not a chance, right? I'm saying that I think I'd have to look. We don't even have the regulations. What are the regulations?
Right. So everything's draft still, right?
Yeah. I have been. Everyone's like, oh, you're going to the public comment? You're going to the public? I'm like, dude, I have the last one saved on my Instagram. I want the one from 2019. Like, what public comment are we talking about? Like, let's do something functional. Yeah. And I'm frustrated with the whole process. That's what I'll.
And it just got delayed
again, because now
Chair O'Brien is coming back.
You literally had a coup on the chair, and now she's coming back. Like, that's insane.
And then it delays. So
everything
got kicked down.
And then you got to ask, if she was the real chair this whole time, how did they vote on anything in her absence?
How would it be valid?
How would it be valid? Your renewal, the testing, the whole testing thing, the 2-driver rule, right? Does all that get rolled back?
Yeah.
Who knows? You know? And you start looking at this and you're just like, is that, and back to the alcohol, like your moral compass or whatever, what are we doing this for, right? Why do I own the weed lounge, right? Like, it's not, I didn't look at it as a huge, like a money-making factor, right? I looked at it as something that, like, I saw a need in a stigmatized portion of the population to create a community space. And that's what I wanted initially, right? Or at least that's what I've grown to realize is more important than the money, right? I don't know how to describe that.
Well, I think what I also think, though, this is why I keep on going back to that first day where you're just like, okay, game on, and you're getting a bunch of press. Let's go get, this is going to make a bunch of money. Or is it going to be like, hey, we have an exit strategy because in 3 years when social consumption's here and we get our license and then we can sell it for millions.
Yeah. So there's obviously, like, what was the ultimate plan? There's obviously a duality to this, right? Where of course you're always like, all right, I want this to be a business. What am I doing here? How am I going?
As a true capitalist, you're like,
yeah. Well, how do I get money? Right? Like, that's the goal, right? We're here to get money, provide a better life for my family, right? And like, but how you do that, right? Like, so we always saw social consumption as this thing, and I knew that it was going to be a thing, right? And I thought it was going to be a lot sooner than this. So our plan was to get market share, right? To create a brand, create that community space in the interim. And then once social consumption capped, right? Once social consumption actually happened, we would keep small, intimate spaces more private, and then we would go with more of a public-facing summit consumption space, right? That's how I always see it happening, right? Where it's like, yeah, I'm a social equity applicant. I supposedly get 3 of these licenses, right? Like, I have the brand, right? So it's so it'd be easy for us to work with a partner, right? And then it's being realistic with yourself, right? Like, my parents worked at Gray Bar. My mother was a secretary. I don't have millions of dollars, right? Like, so it's like, I need someone with money, right? And then it's like, personally, right? Like, I'm not this amazing entrepreneur. I never went to college for, I went for
college is overrated.
That's what I'm saying.
Wait, so you went for Tuba?
I went for 2 months.
I thought you said Tuba.
I went for like 2 semesters for business administration. I was like, this is stupid. This is a waste of my money.
Well, I feel like you're living the life of a business owner is the
100%.
So, but like, are you profitable?
Yeah. I mean, what is profitable, right? I own a nonprofit. what does that mean?
Oh,
What
it's
is
a
what is
non-profit.
yeah, what is, you know what I mean? It's all it's the numbers I look and this is where the formal background of business really hinders my growth, right? And I can admit that, right? And I look at it more as like I'm trying to do a cool thing with cool people and how do I keep growing, right? And the numbers are almost just like an intrinsic mark of that, not so much the goal, right? And that's been my that's my entire life, right? Where I got into recovery, I quit being an electrician. I was like, I'm gonna go advocate. You know what I mean? The money doesn't matter. I'll figure it out, right? And then this opportunity came up, and I was like, I guess I'll figure it out, you know. And now we're here, and I'm like, all right, how do I actually grow this business, and how do I start to generate revenue, right? And I think that's a transition that I'm going through personally, right? And real I don't know how we got on this topic, but, you know what I mean? When you know, so that transition from this quasi-legal nonprofit thing to a social consumption establishment is a big jump for me personally to operate something like that, and I don't necessarily feel like I have the skills to do that, so I wanna find a partner in that in the cannabis space, right? I've listened to a lot of books, and there's one book that I really like about, it talks about, like, kings and barbarians or something like that, and it talks about how through the life of a kingdom or an empire, there's a different ruler for each stage of it, and it ties that back to the evolution as businesses scale, right? Where you need a different type of leader, a different type of owner for a startup versus a multi-Fortune 500
Nine-figure company.
yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I see the lounge being at this place right now where it's like we have a lot of opportunity in the cannabis space, but I'm hesitant to jump into that because I don't have like nonprofit private membership laws have been around since the Constitution. You can look them up. They're there. That's
I'm sure you'll figure it out.
yeah.
But in your own words, figure it out.
Yeah.
But like, I do feel like you did nail something with that last comment, which is a lot of these rules have been around for a long time. Whereas the CCC, and we literally just had this podcast with Jeff Rawson about it's a brand new industry and there's going to be a ton of mistakes made
Ton.
with the regulatory side.
Ton.
And so now they create all these problems for themselves.
Mhm.
Now they have to either change them or roll back some things or other things.
Yeah.
And now, and what you're saying is it's such a burden on the operators that like, wow, it doesn't even make sense to even enter at this point.
Doesn't even make sense.
So when but at least you have something that is profitable that you're able to make a living
And
with.
this is the thing. All right, so back to that question, right? So is it profitable, right? So it's like, yes, I have the truck I want to drive. I have a beautiful apartment. I have a beautiful wife. Like I show up, I sat at the lounge for 3 hours last night and talked with Jerry L. You know what I mean? Like my life couldn't be amazing. Am I going to put kids through college?
Got it.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I'm at that phase where I'm like, and this is good that the social consumption is coming up now, where I'm starting to think about this more in the terms of a business and not so much as just, hey, let's hang out, get high, everybody have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why I think when I think about this though, I think would you be are you scared of competitors using that same model?
No, I'm never
Is there
scared of competition.
another lounge around really that does the same model?
I think all right, so there's a couple, right? And I don't know. There was one that I heard about that got shut down. There was another one that I heard about that got shut down. And so I know for a fact I am 100% legal. We are open on Worcester. It's been that way since 2018. I think there are some other ones. I know Diaspora in Boston, Cambridge. They were doing some really cool events and stuff. They had a cool space for a little bit. Not sure if they're still doing it.
Well, I don't know if again, but I don't think it's a similar model because I think that
No.
one is more of just like an event space
Exactly.
versus an actual like membership club.
I look at it like this. There's a million bars, there's a million restaurants, there's a million things, there's different flavors for everyone. And I think as this market opens up, right? And that's the one thing that I don't like about the lounge. Going back to like the one thing, it would be a bigger space, right? Because then I can suit the needs of more people. Right now, I see I can only suit the new. We had someone that called for a 250-person event the other day. And I'm like,
What's your max
a
occupancy?
golf course, like, 60. I'm like, I could go to a golf course. I'm like, there's nowhere in Massachusetts indoors where you can smoke with 250 people. I'm just like,
There's no
can't do it. Can't do it.
So
You know what I mean?
So but is it a good business model?
Business model, no. Like I said, you need any business model needs a product. You were like, bring a product. I'm like, do I bring a milkshake? You know what I mean?
Do.
Yeah.
And I've heard they're fantastic.
They do. We have good. I was just added refreshers and pizza bagels. Yeah. I think we're gonna lean heavily into the cafe portion of this. I want right now. I feel like we're We're a private membership association, right? I say we're a cannabis lounge, but we're not.
Yeah.
We're a private club, just not for anyone listening. All right. But yeah, so I feel like we're a cannabis lounge where you can get food, right? I want to be a cafe where you can smoke cannabis, right?
So would you potentially look to franchise it at some point?
Oh, 100%. I mean, anything and with me, anything and everything is off and on the table, right? And I just want to come to I want to hear yeah, if you want a franchise, I would love to have that conversation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, no, I'm more thinking about like options to scale.
Oh, 100%.
Like there's
Yeah.
your cafe
Stay slide
that's
caught in the back.
so it's like, yeah, like what do you so the cafe portion I think is fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. There's a million cafes. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
There's cafes everywhere. But if you could do a cafe and have a lounge with
Like a
it,
small private room in the back. I mean, you've
Right.
been to the lounge, right? Where we have the front and then we have the back, right? And you could essentially do that, build a wall in the middle of the building and cafe in the front, lounge in the back. Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's easily scalable, right? And then you're talking more local regulations versus even dealing with like you said, the CCC is in a very difficult position. They had to recreate the wheel, right? In a sense. And I think they made it square, but eventually they'll chisel it out and it will be round.
Exactly.
You know what I
Go
mean?
hit the hole.
Yeah, and we just
You're like, oh, hey, now it's working again.
as the operators going through this, it's an absolute nightmare. The majority of our membership is in the cannabis industry, right?
Well, I was gonna say, what is membership looking like right now?
Yeah, we have we have 16, 17,000 members, right? But everyone you're a member, you're a lifetime member, right? So
I appreciate that.
yeah, and I appreciate you. Yeah, so we have about 16, 17,000 members. Average month. It's the summer. This is our slow time of year. We're
Interesting.
oh yeah, I mean, people want to smoke outside. It's
That's
just
true.
that simple. Friday nights, they're not in the weed lounge. They're
Right.
by the fire, you know? So yeah, so we'll start to pick up over the next month, but busy time of year, 1,000 to 1,200 people a month, right? And then probably slow time of year, like last month we saw like 500. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's over 1,000 people a month, and then but the revenue generated is from the cafe ultimately.
Okay, ultimately from the cafe.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
private rentals, a lot of sponsorships. Oh, the really?
Yeah, the rentals.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to take a step back too because I want to talk about this one,
Yeah.
which is there was a memo that came out.
Oh yeah.
Like 2 years ago.
I know. Yeah.
And it was a memo that was directed to all the operators.
Yeah.
And it said,
Uh-huh.
please, there was like 4 things you had to disclose.
Oh, I have it.
Your relationship with the summer.
Oh yeah. No, I mean,
And I was like, what is this all about?
oh yeah. Yeah. No. It's you know, it's welcome to being in cannabis in Massachusetts. I mean, if you operate in the state, you understand the selective enforcement. Like you understand that these the people in charge of I always go back to this, right? Like the food department, my health inspector. Dude comes in there, he checks what needs to be checked to make sure my food is safe, right? And then any questions I have about the operation of my business, I can have a conversation with this person. Hey, can I do this? Should I be able to do that? What about this, right? And I feel like the CCC, they don't have that relationship with their licensees. So the only way they can communicate is through the super formal thing, right? So when you look at that RFI, right, it's we can dig into that RFI, right? And
I want to know what the fallout was.
oh, nothing, absolutely nothing. It was me contacting the CCC saying you can't harass my memberships. If you don't cease and assist, I'm gonna file legal action, and then they just disappear, and they just disappear.
And so, as far as you know, no licensed operator.
No, got fined or anything like that. No,
But because it was asking things.
oh, I have it right here.
Yeah.
It was asking. It was any financial transaction, text messages, phone call, your messages, freaking any cannabis that may have been gifted or donated. Like, and you're just like, is this a legal product or not? Like, if I own a liquor store, you walk in and you have it and you're 21 plus, and I give you a nip, I'm losing the money. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I
you're
think
just like,
that's a lot of what people have been saying about various parts of the CC. Because it's also just like even the whole pennying out memo that came out. It's just like
my business. If I want to
if
sell
I
it,
want to sell it for a penny,
I'll
I
say.
should be able to sell it for.
If I want to give it away, I'll give it away.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's
Ultimately, I mean, that's kind of our stance as well. Like,
Yeah.
let me run
my business. Yes.
Like, ultimately, I can't buy my own. I have to go to another dispensary to go buy my own product.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I have to pay full price for them because nobody's willing to penny out anything for me.
That's insane.
I literally make it over there, and
It's literally right there in your belly that you pay for, that you pay taxes on, that you pay licensing fees for. And then you get into the RFI where it's just like, yeah, anytime we don't like anything that, or we perceive you doing something, we just shoot you this RFI. And it's like me looking at that, it has 30 questions on it that are very in-depth, like not like something I can just Google. It's like asking for financial transactions, all the stuff.
So we would have hit a bit of a panic mode because we were looking at doing an event in your space, 100%, literally like the week before, and I was like, what was this all about? And then I think I did a podcast that same week with Discerned.
Yep.
So Alan,
And
and
they were doing stuff at the launch.
they were doing
yeah.
podcasts, and so I went in there for a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey team, we should look at doing an event here. A week later, we get that RFI. It was not even an MO, RFI. Remember?
Yeah. So there's two. So they've done this multiple times to us. All right. Like,
And I was like, what a crazy coincidence. Yeah, I happened to, the only email we've ever sent to your team the first email we ever sent to your team, we get RFI and we're like, okay, here's the email. Like that, like no transactions, nothing happened. And again, we're small. Back then we probably were maybe like 7 people. Now we're like 12. It's like, we panicked. We were shit.
Imagine being in your business and knowing that's happening. You're literally like, are the feds going to raid me today? Like
we pulled away money from you because you were looking to cement stick, dude. That's really that's what I mean. The repercussions of that. Now we all are being like
all the time.
We were trying.
I just had someone. I had a brand. Was this? This was right before 420, and they were like, oh, we're gonna do it, this and that, and great people. I know their wholesale person. They support the shit out of us, and then it goes up to compliance, and they're just like, yeah, we can't do anything with you. And I'm just like, I've been open longer than you have. What are you talking about? Like, but that's the operating environment under the Cannabis Control Commission, where you can't. They're not. And they don't allow for the wiggle room of a new industry, right? And they don't appreciate that they're going to make mistakes. They put all of it on the operator, right? And they're not saying like, hey, maybe this regulation doesn't make sense for your business. We're going to try to get clarification on that, right? Like, we're going to try to figure this out and that's the inspectors, when they go out to the business, need to be having that dialogue in a friendly way, not coming in there like they own the place, because you don't own the place. Like, and that's the other thing I think about it, like, if someone came into my if a government agency sent my business that RFI, I would be like, I'll see you in court. Like, you should be sending this to my lawyer. I don't even know. Like, I'm not giving you financial
RFIs occasionally for things. So that's why it's like, okay, we got to respond to this. Because in the regulations, it says if you get an RFI, you have to respond within 24 hours of receipt and then 10 business days with the actual like material or something like that. So it's
whose job is that? Who are you paying to do that? How many hours are we wasting?
Yeah, it's only us doing it. So, and I think there is, and again, I haven't been in the industry as long as you, and as well as like, I've only been a licensed operator. I mean, we officially got a provisional in 2020, but we didn't launch until 2022. So we have a 5-year anniversary just hit, right?
I love that.
As far as corporate business.
You guys have transitioned a lot too.
Oh yeah, we've headed it.
My wife loves that stuff.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure, yeah, it's very good. Yeah.
And so, but when I think about it, I think to myself, they were formed. The CCC, the regulatory body, was formed, and I think one of the biggest MOs that they have is diversion, right? So they're just always treat as
there's no diversion. There's no diversion on a legal product.
Right,
it's a legal product. There's no diversion.
So, but that's the thing. Is like at some point, they're thinking it's going to get in some kids' hands or whatever, but is that the parents' issue or is it so that's where I'm going with that though, is like,
that's the thing. And can we I see it more as, can we regulate morals into society? That's what I see with this whole thing, where you're just like, okay, so we're saying that like the adult voting body voted for this product to be legal. We said we want this to end, right? And then we get into the muddiness of how we regulate that, right? And I think the CCC saw it. And I don't know, right? I think the whole government saw it as a new way to generate revenue, and not like, holy shit, we're establishing a brand new multi-billion-dollar industry that's going to employ millions of people across the country and in the Commonwealth, right? Like, they're looking at it more like, all right, this is a bad thing. How do we control this, right? Not how do we help this grow and how do we make sure that our communities are safe.
That's actually one of the things that keep coming up. And I've been asked this a few times now by random people, whether it's, acquaintances or people within my own company, were just like, hey, what do you think about this whole like making it illegal again in Massachusetts, that whole thing? And I'm just like, how is that even possible? It's the #1 tax revenue source. It's above alcohol at this point. the number one agricultural crop over cranberries. Like, there's no way somebody's gonna be like, hey, we're just getting all this money.
What happens to your business? What happens to all of this?
Exactly.
Like, that makes no sense.
Right.
And stuff like that, that distracts the majority of people in the market from the real issues, right? The real issue is the employee badging. To me, I'm like, how can you pay for, like, that's a professional license that that person should have to carry with them.
They pass the test.
Why am I paying for it? Why is it on my books? Why?
Right. Or
That,
why do you have to do every time you change a job, you have to go do this whole
that's insane. That's insane. You look into that. You look into the sampling. You look into the marketing, and you're like, yeah, like that is a distraction from the real issues. Social consumption is a distraction from the fundamental underlying problems with the regulation. And you can add anything on top of it, but it's not going to fix the structural issues, right? When they set up the cannabis industry, they created a whole new regulatory structure, right? And that's the CRM, whatever it is, where they developed all those outlines and everything, right? And it's like, you should have just took alcohol and just changed the word alcohol, or took tobacco and changed the word tobacco and adjusted it a little bit, right? And you would have had a framework that local municipalities already understand, right, and can work with, instead of recreating the wheel and then dictating to the operators who may have operated a ton of businesses. This is completely alien. What other business can the state just send you an RFI and be like, oh, are we talking medical companies? Are we talking, like, we're not talking a 21 plus consumable product. We're talking a hazardous material, right? So it's like, with that level, and that's just how I feel. And in good, bad, and different, there's going to be people who are going to make money, and there's going to be people who are going to lose a lot,
and
and
there's a lot of people who lost their shirt,
a
unfortunately.
lot. And that's the fault of the regulators. It is, and
So when it comes to the I guess the pushback on the plant itself regarding that,
yeah,
the ballot measure, which I think they got 50,000, 80,000 signatures for, or whatever.
it's so
Do
funny.
you have you gotten like hate mail or protesters outside being like, go home, weed smokers?
When we first opened, I was always worried about protesters. When we first opened, I was like, "Yo, they're gonna be outside protesting." I was so scared. But no, honestly, like, it's what I find is it's all about how you carry yourself, right? And it's like, I always go back to, you're an educated, well dressed person. You look like you know what you're talking about, right? Like, and when you can articulate why you consume cannabis, or why you, in my case, why I don't consume cannabis, but I can see a benefit for our communities around cannabis, right? What are they going to say? Yeah, okay, like, you're just going to say you don't like, yeah, just say you don't like cannabis and you don't want it consumed, right? Like, just say that. Don't use all these crazy arguments. Just say that, because I think we're at a point in society where the amount of information that the average person has, right, and especially in regards to cannabis, you're just like, no, there's a benefit to our communities, right, from this plant, right? And I always go back to, I like to think about, like, the industry in the last 8 years, and you're like, industry's a shit show, regulations are a shit show, all that doesn't matter. What really matters is that some kid isn't going to be kicked out of college because he got caught with a plant. Some kid's house isn't going to be raided because he was trying to, consume a plant, right? Like, and that's what we really got to look at. The industry, like you said, it will stabilize, but it's like, that's the real benefit to all this.
Yeah, it's a longevity for the operators is just sticking with it, and you just
Sticking with it.
pushing through the changes that you think should be done. Structural changes are obviously a huge uphill battle. Those things are really hard to unwind.
I think we're, especially, yeah, like you said, and this is why I said earlier, like, it's easier to start with less regulation and add as the problems arise than to start with over regulation and take it away. And this is the old adage, government never takes rules away. They only add more. You know what I mean? So it's like,
One,
so
anything like that is
now we're in a situation where it's almost like, how are we going to fix this? No one really has a clear answer, and I think I think if she can't get it under control, Orion, right? If she can't come back in and try to, and she already started. I mean, we look at the whole thing with the executive director and all that stuff, and you're just like, it's an agency fraught with just craziness, and I think everyone can see that and everyone knows that, but no one really wants to just be like, yeah, no, it should be under the ABC. Like, you need ABC, you need to abolish the CCC, and you need to put it under the ABC. Like,
yeah.
they regulate all the adult goods. Like, they have experience. You cut out a side department, just like I worked for BSAS in the, Office of Youth and Young Adults. You know what I mean? We have that ABC and the Cannabis Control Commission. You know what I mean? Like, they shouldn't be a standalone body. They don't need to be. It's you know what I mean? And I just think, and I think, I don't know what that looks like for the operator, and I think it's going to be very turbulent. And the cannabis industry is already turbulent. I mean, you look at the price.
That's what it's like. Yeah, we'll see if that ever. Yeah, again, we can only speculate. But then, like, let's go back to the lounge real quick as we start to wrap here.
Yeah, sorry.
Because I'm so curious. Like, there must be some crazy stories that happen at this lounge sometimes.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
a fun time. It's a fun time. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
But it's different because you even said, like, I don't want to run a bar with alcohol because I can't deal with drunks.
yeah. No.
But you must deal with some weird.
Oh yeah, we had some
weirdness.
we were up there last night. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. It's
Because they greened out kind of thing.
no. He was drinking. He was drinking. Yeah, we allow BYOB as well. So
Okay.
we're it's BYOC, BYOB, right? We want a space where you can be yourself. And yeah, I mean, we've had tons of nothing like violent. I've never had a fight. I've had to kick a couple of people out, but it's more just like, hey, like your behavior isn't becoming of what we accept at the lounge. Like, you know what I mean? I wish you the best. Maybe come back in 6 months or a year. You know what I
You had to revoke somebody's membership.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. I mean, it's a community space, right?
Yeah.
And it's my job to make sure that every member in there feels safe and welcomed, right?
And to respect it.
And yeah, and it's never a decision I make lightly, right? Like it's a first it's like, hey man, like that wasn't acceptable. Watch yourself, right? And then it's like, hey dude, fuck around, you're gonna find out. And then the last one is like, hey, you're not welcome here anymore. I completely respect you. I hope everything works out for you, but you're not welcome around here anymore.
Right.
And it's 2 shots, and then you're out. You're not getting a third one.
Got it. And so in the space itself, holding events, you can hold up to 60 people. Is there, I'm sure you've maxed that out a few times, right? Because people love going to that.
People like the space. Yeah.
Like what makes like a really successful event?
It's what makes a good event is you need to give people something to do, right? Like they need an activity, right?
This is just like, I'm just gonna sit around and smoke.
Yeah, and then it's just too. It's all depends on the host, right? The host of the event is probably the single most important thing, right? Because if you get a good host around that has a good following and they can tap into that following, right, for that event, then the event will be good, right? And yeah, so I think like you get like bingo, great. You know what I mean? Bingo's a great event. Karaoke, that's a
Karaoke event.
karaoke's an amazing event, right? The industry nights. People love the industry nights. It's cheap, $300. You come pop up, you interact with whoever you want, you invite people. It's $5 to get in. You know what I mean? So I think the cost definitely has a factor, right? Is it if you get over $10 to $15, people think about what they're gonna get. If you're under $10 or $15, they're just like, oh, it's
Whatever.
yeah, I spent that on a coffee. You know what I mean? Like, so there's so many different promotion. When you start the promotion, how long? Like we plan events 2 months out because I want a month to organize all the sponsors, come up with the logistics plan, and then a month to like actually promote. You know,
You guys help plan it as well.
oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
we do,
like full
yeah.
service in a sense.
Yeah, you guys are doing one with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've so we do so we
It's for the audience. I understand how. I'm trying to make sure the audience knows how.
I got you. All right.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize we were doing one. So go team.
They're killing it. We love communicating with them. They are amazing. Yeah. No. So yeah. So the way it works is right. Someone hits us up for an event, right? And we'll be like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a standalone event? That's a private event. That's $12.50. We don't do anything. You show up the night of, and you want
Own the space.
you want Jello shots. You want you know what I mean? A bar. I don't care, right? And then we have what we found working with like I try to work with the majority of brands, right? And I price myself for what I think is priced for the majority of brands, not that one customer, right?
Is that the majority of people who are renting the lounge out is brands?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I guess cultivators also have brands of their own.
Yeah. I think it's more like
It's not like if it's gonna get we're gonna Fetchery ever rented out.
yeah, for like company parties. We saw a lot of those like around Christmas time and stuff like this. We just had one with DM last night. Resonate sponsored. So then they brought all the bud tenders, some education.
Too. So yeah,
it's all
there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So what was I saying there? Yeah, no, I think there's
So the whole space to rent out the whole space is $12.50.
$12.50. Then we do the sponsorship options, which is $300 for a basic sponsor, and then $600 for a main sponsor. For like we're doing an event, Harvest Cup. right? Harvest Cup, we have a cocktail hour and we have a brunch, right? You guys are actually sponsoring the cocktail
All right,
hour,
cool.
right? So
Go team.
so like for the cocktail hour, we have 4 brands, right? You guys are our main sponsor, so you get the main prominent position in the front, and then obviously we have the refreshers, you have that, whatever, right? And then we have Space Poppers, we have Weed Maps, and we have Originals, right? So Originals is another main sponsor, so they get the main back, you guys get the main front, and then Space Poppers and Weed Maps gets to sit wherever I want, right? Yeah, and then you guys get the prominent, well, whatever. So then we
I just remember this now because I think maybe we were one of the smaller sponsors, the side sponsors last Harvest Cup or something like that. And so we were like, it was so good for us. We're like, we got to be in
Yeah,
this
no,
sponsor.
no. It's the Harvest Cup. I tell everyone, I'm like, if you're looking to sponsor, it's our busiest week. I mean, there's 3,000 people in the cannabis industry right down the street. It's yeah, we're busy nonstop. But yeah, so like for stuff like that, we create the flyer, we create the ticket link, we organize all the sponsors, all the logos, we do everything, including make sure like the physical night of setup when your team arrives, like I'll be like, hey, here's your spot, here's what we're doing, here's gonna be the vibe, you know what I mean? And then for private event, once again, we don't do anything. You're paying to have we don't charge anyone to come in with the sponsorships. We still charge the use fees to come in, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Has membership like plateaued, do you think? Because you said it's a lot of industry.
Yeah, I feel like and being around as long as we've been around, right? I've seen a lot of different transitions, right? Like when we were first open for the first 2 years pre-COVID, like it was all black market, all like we were getting. I mean, yeah, people from Maine would drive down here and hang out for the weekend, and yeah, it's a really cool community. It really was. It was so much fun. And now it's like I'm talking more with marketing managers, people like you know what I mean? And yeah, so it is what it is. It changes, right? And then during COVID, we really saw the industry start to take off. And that's when we started to get a lot of like bud tenders, brand ambassadors. We started doing more of the industry events, more like finding the sponsorships, right? And now I'm trying to transition not away from the industry, but more towards the regular consumer because I see that's where the industry is going. Like the ROI for the brand comes from the consumer. And I think everyone's finally realized that. So instead of paying for parties for ourselves, now we want to figure out how do we engage the consumer and get the sell through to the.
That's where I was going with that because when I think about I mean, I love my cannabis family out there, but like if I see you at another event again, it's just like I know you. We caught up literally last weekend. You know what I mean? So like we don't have to catch up again.
Yeah.
And so usually, especially even at the big conferences, it's kind of like wink. I got you. I know you. I see you, but I'm gonna go. I'm working right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I think there are consumer-focused events that people should potentially be engaging with more as a brand.
I think,
And if you move to that direction, then I think you get a lot more people. Like you can even raise your rates at that point. Whereas now we're talking directly to consumers.
yeah, that's
As opposed to just everybody in the industry. And everybody in the industry loves our product.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. People love our product.
Yeah.
But
You got to get the sell.
the consumer, that's the person we're really trying to reach.
Yeah, and I think it's structurally like here's the other thing that I've noticed, which is also interesting in a critique, I would say, is like the wholesalers are spending ad dollars, right? Revenue, marketing revenue to drive traffic to the retailer. So so every dollar, I try to think about it like that, where you're like, every dollar you're spending on marketing is really making them 30-40%. You know what I mean? So
50%. It's Keystone. Keystone is 50%.
So you're like, so even at that, so it's like you're just, so how do we and it's back to the relationships. It's why
But
it's
it's like partnerships too, though. Like so, that's one of the things we have been thinking about is how do we engage? And so what we've done, depending on different retailers, what we'll do is we'll select a retailer to partner with. Right. So we went to the Big E, right? And so we were like, all right, Fine Settle, I think was the person. We reached out to maybe like 2 or 3 or something like that in the Springfield area. Fine Settle was like literally right down the road. So we were like, all right, we'll talk to Fine Settle. And they were like, let's go.
let's fucking do it. Yeah.
Because for us, it's more about like, what's something fun that we can offer to consumers and then they can go purchase it. Whereas like, cause it's like, we're helping we're selling stuff.
Right.
So like we are trying to be very selective with our partnerships right now, but it's usually the people who spend the most money with us. We automatically kind of give them the
that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
As I mean,
it's one of the biggest.
You look at alcohol, you look at any of these just larger like distributors. That's how they do it, right? And it's Yeah.
That's what it is. And yeah, I find Federal West Springfield, I think, is either number 2 or number 3 largest store.
We're definitely trying to focus more of our relationships with the local retailers this year. I think over the next like year, we're definitely focusing more on like Good Chem, DM, yeah, Major Bloom, Resonate, you know what I mean? Fish stores, in Worcester, bro, in Worcester, because like we have a reach, right, in the cannabis industry, right? This is statewide, right? And obviously we get people that drive down from Maine, they're gonna drive, right? But it's like, how do we provide that community experience to that industry while still driving revenue, right? And you need the daily consumer for a hospitality based business. You need that person that's going to come there after work every day of the week, smoke a joint, grab a refresher, and go home. You know what I mean? Like that, and that's
And that leads into your other idea, which is bigger space,
which is
because you can cater to different audiences too.
yeah.
So I think that,
And back to the question about competition. No, never. I think there's going to be a unique space for every brand of people, and I think everyone should have the opportunity to have their own space.
Yeah.
And I want to collaborate with all of them.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I was asking that question was because I'm really trying to dig into seeing if is this even a good business? Because it's like you go in, you're like, yeah, we're gonna crush it. 9 years later, reflecting back, you're like, what the hell did I?
Like 9 years later, reflecting back, I'm like, wow, I wasted 9 years of my life. I created a really cool space where a lot of people got a lot of social connection. But if I look at from from when I got sober to when I was in the cannabis industry, how much did I grow professionally versus how much have I grown in the cannabis industry professionally, right? And yeah, I mean, COVID, right? We were closed for fucking 4 years. I took off to Maine with my brother to open a grow. You know what I mean? So it's like I had a grow in Maine as well for 4 years. Yeah. So it's like, can you even count that time? So then realistically, we've only been around 2 to 3 years, and I'm like, all right, that's still kind of new for a company, right? So I'm like, should we're right in that phase where we should be, where it's like, all right, how do I effectively generate revenue and scale this business? I have a proof of concept at this point, right? I think I do, at least, where I'm like, could go on for 100 years like this. You know what I mean? I hire a manager, maybe I make, $2,000 a month, and I just have fun,
Your hands off that point.
it runs. Yeah, actually, it runs, it works, right? But how do you grow that? And I think we're coming into a mature market, right? And I think a lot of things are changing, and I think that's the struggle of a lot of operators in this space, right? How do you adjust an established business that kind of works to a new environment, right? And how do you do that effectively? Is
Yeah, I feel like there's change brewing right now. So it's like, what does that
mean?
like?
What does that mean? I mean, and there's change.
There's change.
There's change.
Any last kind of shout outs or anything you want to give? Obviously, people know how to find you.
Yeah.
Some obviously like hit you up if you want to plan a great party.
I have 3 phones. You can get a hold of me.
You should have the number to one of them at least.
Yeah, no, and if you don't, just ask. Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, no, I would say stick with it. I would say stick with it. It's gonna get better. You know what I mean? Change isn't always bad, even if it seems bad. You know what I mean? And you just keep moving, and everything will work out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I got. I don't know. Okay,
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate your time, Kyle.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this. I really did. Thank you.